Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AEC Today Reports, our February episode. And we, as you can see, are celebrating Black History Month. We hope you've been doing well since we last saw you in January. We're really excited about tonight's episode because we have an opportunity to celebrate something that means so much to us, our history, our present, and the future of Black people. As we know, we celebrate 365 days, but we still want to take time in February for National Black History Month to do the same. And we're really excited about our guests. We're going to talk a little bit about some homegrown Black history. We're going to have our Ask the Pastor segment, which also deals with Black history. We're also going to have Fitness with Faye, talking about Black health and some of the things that we can do to improve our health as a Black community. So we have a lot of great things planned. So go ahead right now and share this, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, share this program with someone else. It proves to be an enjoyable one, I'm sure. We're always excited about our guests and the dialogue that we have, and we hope you are too. Well, once again, welcome back to AC Day Reports. We'll be right back after this short break.
The Message Magazine campaign needs your support. No, that's the wrong message. The right message is that you need message. You need to send message to your friends. You need to send message to your family members. You need to send message to your co-workers. You need to send message to your boss. You need the message. We trust that you would send your subscription by going to messagemagazine.com, and they're filling out all the necessary information that you need so that you can send the message to your friends who you want to spend eternity with, who you have a concern about their soul salvation. You need the message. And more importantly, we trust that you would take a subscription for yourself to the Message Magazine. If it's not convenient for you to go to messagemagazine.com, you just fill out the necessary information and send it to Pacific Press. You just put your name, your address, your church, your conference, and send all those names who you have a sincere desire to know them, to have the Message Magazine. Send it to Pacific Press with a check. You can do it by check or money order, and send it to Pacific Press. And we trust that you will be rewarded. I know that you will be rewarded by sending the message with its articles that are relevant, with its articles that are for today, which are articles will meet your need. So you need the message, and we trust that as you are in this Message Magazine campaign, that you'll do all that you can to share the message with those who you love. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to AC Today Reports. And as you know, we are celebrating Black History Month, this month of February. It's coming down to its last week. And we're very, very happy to have our next guest with us. He's someone that represents something very special to the heart of AEC. And I'm going to bring him on now instead of creating all of this mystery. Hello, Jared.
Hello.
Roseboro.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. For those who don't know who Jared is, he is I feel like that's so insignificant to say. Like, this is not enough. Like, there needs to be some name for what we do for the Pine Forge Academy Choir.
It's quite all right. I take pride in the very simple role that I have as choir director here at Pine Forge Academy.
It just sounds insufficient, but we'll take it. We know what the paper says, but we know what we see. But thank you for joining us. As I said, we're talking about Black history, and I don't feel like we as a conference can talk about Black history without including Pine Forge Academy. And, first of all, we always like to check in with our guests. How are you doing? I mean, COVID has been interesting for all of us, especially I'm sure for you. How are you doing and coping with all of these changes?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit later in the interview. COVID definitely for music artists just across the board really gave us the opportunity to make a huge adjustment. And so, it's been challenging. I will not take away from that. It has been challenging. But what I can say is that God has really opened a door for us to stay relevant,
Mhm.
not only to stay relevant, but to also speak to the community at large, right?
Mm. Mm.
Whereas before we might have depended solely upon, the history of the Pine Forge Choir. We travel a lot, you know,
Yes.
and so it was challenging, but our traveling being shut down for the time being, slowly getting back into it, really gave us the opportunity to reach out to an audience that may not before have been, our thoughts to reach. So how are we doing? We are very much so always thinking about how can we reach those who before, might not have been on our minds
Mhm.
to reach, like people who might not step into a concert hall or into the four walls of a church. Like,
Right.
how can we reach those people? So that's how we're doing. It's challenging. I will not lie
Yeah.
to you. It
But
is
stretch.
challenging,
Mhm.
yes, but that is where we've definitely seen where God has just opened doors for us to be able to, like I said, reach some people, and it's been an amazing journey. Just reaching some people and reaching some entities that before would have never been on our mind as far
Right.
as being able to reach. So,
That's great. Great. We love that when these adversities create opportunities.
mhm,
Okay, so we know that working at Pine Forge Academy, it's almost like your job to emphasize Black history 24/7 with
mhm.
the students. What is that like for you? I mean, we know February, the world, I mean, or at least in this country, we are celebrating it. But for you all, it's not just a month, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So um, I think what was really good about being able to come to Pine Forge, one of my biggest things for me, especially when we have the idea of Black History Month, which is to be celebrated, is that I'm Black for 365 days,
Right.
24/7,
Yep.
and so the opportunity to constantly celebrate, to constantly, reiterate the value and the journey
Mhm.
that we've had to trot as a people, is of the utmost importance, and it's a wonderful thing because we have such a how should I say, it's a very it's an easy platform, I should say,
Mhm.
here, in that there's so much legacy and there's so much history between the academy itself, between the Allegheny East Conference, even further back than that, the grounds that we're on,
Yeah.
as people have known before, used to be a stop on the Underground Railroad. I mean, like, when you put all of that into play, it's undeniable how, like, divine
Mhm.
ordinance kind of just puts all of what we do here together. And so, like I said, it's easy, it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to be in a place where we can really just pour into our own,
Yeah.
and not shelter them from the world, but it's a place where when the world has an issue with their Blackness, it's a place where we can openly just love on them and really affirm
Right.
who these kids are and where they come from and what they come from.
Right. Absolutely. And I know in particular the choir, I feel like you've from my observation, you've used the choir as an opportunity to help celebrate that Blackness. And we know about the recent project.
Mhm,
This is Our Black.
mhm, mhm.
Tell us about that. When was the premiere? I feel like my days are running
The premiere was October 23rd of 2021.
21. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So October, you premiered this
Yes.
production by the
Yes.
Pine Forge Academy Choir. This is Our Black. First of all, tell us how that concept came together for you.
I That concept, even now, I tell my students just about the God breathed thing that was. So I'll tell you this, and I'll keep it brief. At the beginning of last school year, of course, this was at the height of the COVID pandemic, and over the summer we had seen the situations of police brutality with George Floyd, and then heard about the lynching of Ahmaud Arbery, and like we were just seeing all of these things that were happening. And so, like I said, I'll keep this story short. We got back to the school year, and I've been praying to God, like, how am I going to make choir music relevant for these kids, seeing as how we can't travel? We couldn't go anywhere. We were pretty much stuck on campus. And God was literally, I remember one morning, he was like, you're going to get up, you're going to tell these kids that we're going to do a musical of our own. And I kid you not, there was no music written, there was no script, there was nothing. And I tell the kids all the time, I stood in front of them and said, kids, we're about to do a musical. Half of them were excited, half of them kind of looked, like,
what you mean?
Right. And I had nothing at that point. I had nothing to show them. There was no production crew. There was nothing at that point. But it was really just stepping out on faith, where God was saying, this is something really life-changing that we're going to do here. And so we just got to work, and literally as we got to work, and I use this parallel, just as, like when the children of Israel were crossing over into the Jordan, God was like, you got to put your feet in the Jordan first. It wasn't until they put their feet in that the water started separating. And so it was literally the same for us. It literally not until we started working on the project did God start to give ideas, and God started to pour in people to invest in what we were doing. And so that's how the project came about to be. That was literally how it was nothing. And then we started, and God just continually provided everything that we needed for that project.
All right. So you were like Noah building the ark here. You just spoke the words, and people are looking at you like you're crazy, but you just kept building. So what was that? I mean, from the time that God kind of put this in your spirit, from, to the execution of it, what was that time frame?
Literally, I would say it was like September of 2020. Till October, literally.
Year. Work in progress.
Yeah. So literally that was the time frame from, its inception to the premiere. And then of course now, as we are working to put it on a wider platform. So
okay. Yeah, of course people are gonna want to know, I missed the premiere. It was in October. How do I get to see it? Well, you gotta wait. Now you gotta wait, but you will have the opportunity to view it later. Now, we know anytime people try to celebrate who they are, particularly Black people, you're always going to have some people, even our own, who get a little uncomfortable with this. This is our Black. Oh, are we being a little too out there? Are you being too forceful with this thing? How do you respond to that type of criticism about, being so bold as to, have the kids putting up their fists, and, how do you respond to that type of pushback?
Well, it was two things. The first thing is kind of surface, but it is one of the bigger things for me, is that no one, when it comes to the American Revolution, and when it comes to our founding forefathers, and the 4th of July, and all of these things, there's no one who opposes the celebrations being grandiose for these things. And I always point out that I find it interesting that when we want to celebrate our people, when we want to celebrate our accomplishments, then there is this huge rebuttal as to, oh, maybe that's too strong, or maybe that's too much. But we don't, there's not the same protest, or there's not the same energy when we're celebrating what we'll say American history, which is American history.
Right.
And so just that's the first thing for me,
Mm-hmm.
is that, like, if we are allowed to, do all of this to celebrate, to remember, to honor, the more picture perfect side
Mm.
of American history, then I refuse to feel any guilt, or I refuse to feel any remorse for celebrating the same for my people, and what the great contribution and the perseverance that we have contributed to what is American history. Now, the second one is a little bit more. Um, I would say it's not as surface, but I don't feel like well, no, let me start again. I feel as if for the longest time we've been trying to convince everybody that we are worth celebrating.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and over the past few years, I've developed this mindset that I don't have to convince anyone. We're worth celebrating, and that's that's the
Yeah.
beginning and the end of the discussion. And if you feel differently, you're entitled to feel that way,
Right.
and that's okay. But I'm not trying to convince anyone anymore to say our children are worth celebrating, their
Mhm.
lives are worth celebrating, their gifts are worth celebrating, their platforms, their creativity is worth celebrating. It's always been worth celebrating. It's
That's right.
always been worth, shining a light on. And it speaks volumes, once again, like I said, that when we decide to shed light and to celebrate and to represent these gifts and the creativity that our people have and our kids have, there is some kind of rebuttal towards it. And
Mhm.
I think that's where I am. I
Hey,
don't, not convincing anyone that we're worth celebrating. It's like, we'll celebrate. If you don't like it, you can change the channel.
right?
and
It's okay, right? That's right.
keep going from there.
Yeah, and it's something, yeah, when God gives you something, like, like He whispered that to you, listen, you just move on in faith because you know that He's got your back, and if He's got your back, then pretty much when anybody else has to say is secondary. But, it's awesome. I thought it was a great project, and I thought about the value it would give the students themselves, being part of something like that, celebrating, because sometimes we assume that people are born with a sense of pride and that they're getting that at home or in their own churches, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
So you helping facilitate that for them through this choir experience, I thought was a very, very beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think it's the core of why Pine Forge Academy exists in the first place.
Mhm.
So kudos to you and your team on that.
Thank you.
Now that we are in the month of Black History,
Mhm.
February, Black History Month celebration,
Mhm.
what are some other things that the choir has been doing, or some of the things they have coming up?
Yeah, it's been, we just had the wonderful opportunity, and I believe that, from my understanding, speaking to the people that were in charge of the program, this was a first for Pine Forge and for the choir. The Episcopalian Diocese of the state of Pennsylvania, and that's, if we're relating it in terms of like Adventism, it
Mhm.
would be like the Union,
Okay.
Columbia Union
Right.
for
There
us, but for the Afro or the Episcopalian
you
Church, if you will. They had a celebration or they have a yearly annual celebration for a man by the name of Absalom Jones. Absalom Jones is the man who founded the first African Episcopal Church,
go.
right?
Hmm,
And so they have begun this tradition where they annually celebrate in February this man. And so it is one of which, or it's a celebration of which, all of the Episcopalian churches, both Black, white, those of Latin origin as well, they all come together to celebrate what this man had done. And so this year that they did it, they asked Pine Forge to be the main musical guest for that
awesome.
program. And so that was a wonderful experience for the students. Of course, it was virtual, but they came in with their recording crews. The production is still up. You can catch the link, it's on our site, on our Facebook page, and then it's also
Okay.
up on YouTube. But it was such a beautiful production, and such an opportunity for the kids. And then eventually, the CW Philly caught wind of the program, and they saw what was going on, thoroughly enjoyed it, and so they took an abridged version. And this past
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, they premiered a portion of that program, which also Pine Forge was featured as well. And
Okay.
so that was just a phenomenal opportunity. There have been a few other programs.
Mm-hmm.
One for the diplomacy of Fairfax County. There's another one for the state of Virginia that the students are creating virtual videos for. There's a program tomorrow that we have a few students that are going to sing for that program. And then one of the last ones that we're really excited about, which is also a first, like I said, or
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's a first for the academy, is on Sunday around 10 a.m. We're going to go and put on a program for the men and women that serve our country, the armed forces. There's a fort out in New Jersey called Fort Dix, and they are going to bring the kids out. They've been preparing for a while now. I'm really looking forward to this
That sounds exciting. Yeah.
engagement. Yeah. They've, literally they've been prepping the base, letting them know that these kids are coming onto the base. It's also, I wouldn't say it's unnerving, but it's like, they ran background checks and all this kind of stuff for us to be able to come
Really
on base. So
serious business.
yeah, it is. But we're definitely looking forward to this opportunity to just minister to these men and women who on a day in and day out basis are, putting their lives on the line for our freedom, for our, protection. So we're looking forward to that. They've been looking forward to us, been communicating back and forth, and we've definitely been looking forward to this opportunity. So as we were saying before, God has just continually, even in the midst of that, what is this pandemic, and what has
Mhm.
really been an interesting time for us. God has just been really faithful in still creating these platforms for us to be able to minister on such a high level.
Oh, yes, this is awesome, and, I just wanna go ahead and affirm you again because, we hear that phrase, "For such a time as this,"
Mm.
and this is your time. God chose you to lead this choir during a pandemic. I mean, if that's a if
Mhm.
that doesn't say anything about the confidence God has in your abilities, I don't know what does because you've been able to use this as an opportunity, I think, as you said, to kind of expand the choir's reach.
Mm,
But even the way I think the choir thinks about what they do and who they are as people.
mm,
So thank
mm.
you for your dedication
Absolutely.
to Pine Forge Academy Choir. Now, before we go,
Mhm.
I did see recently that the choir has some new hoodies. Really cool. You can check it out on their Facebook page, Pine Forge Academy Facebook page. But the great thing about it, because sometimes you see these cool things, you're like, oh man, I wish I could have one. Well, you guys are offering them to people. This is like
Yes.
for choir alum, or you can even have your the
Yes.
section on the
Yes.
sleeve, and or just nothing on the sleeve. You just want to support the
Mhm.
choir. There's a little something.
Absolutely.
How can people get these sweatshirts if they're listening right now and they're interested?
Right. So if you'll go on, and we'll have a link up. Now that you
Yeah.
said that, we'll definitely have a link up on our main site at pineforgeacademy.org. Right now, if you'll go to our Facebook page, you'll be able to see the link that takes you to the site.
Mhm.
We have a myriad of custom made hoodies, those for both alum, those for parents. We
Yes,
have
that's
one
right.
custom made for choir parents and all that kind of stuff. And then we just had one that was blank. It's just like if you just want to uh, be of support for the choir, by all means. So definitely go check that out. The kids have enjoyed it. You see them all around campus
Sporting it. We'll
Yeah.
put up some pictures after we close. I'll put up some pictures so that people can see what we're talking about. And we'll also try to put the link in the chat for you all to have a quick way of getting there from Facebook and YouTube. But those are awesome. Congrats on that project.
Thank you.
Any closing words before we go? Anything? Oh, well, people always want to know, how can I support the choir, or how can I get the choir to come to my church or my organization's program? How do they go about reaching out?
Absolutely. So, if you would reach out by email, you reach out by email to jroseborough at pineforgeacademy.org. I spell out JROSEBOROUGH at pineforgeacademy.org. If you'll just reach out, that's always the best way to get to me or get to the team that I work with, to get the choir out. Of course, because we are still within the grasps of the pandemic, our traveling looks a little bit different. We still do travel. It looks a little bit different than it would before. But regardless, to say we are definitely still in the modes and in the throes of traveling. So if you're interested in having the choir, by all means, reach out and we'll definitely see what we can work out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us. We know you probably have something coming up in just a minute with the choir, so we always appreciate you taking the time when you have it to share with us. And once again, thank you so much for what you're doing for the choir and the academy and all of us at large. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. All right, everybody, we will be right back after this short break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AEC Today Reports. As you see, we are continuing with our Black History episode of AEC Today, and we are happy to have with us a very special guest. He is doing great things with his church, not just for Black History Month, but we're going to talk about that today. I'm talking about none other than Pastor Corey Johnson. How are you, Pastor Johnson?
I'm doing well. How are you? It's good to be on here today.
Good to have you. And for those who don't know, please shout out the name of your church, who you're representing today.
For sure. I am the proud pastor of the Mount Sinai SDA Church over in the capital city of Trenton, New Jersey.
All right, the Mount. I love that. Awesome. So, and we've talked to you before on this program. We know that you guys know how to keep it active and interesting. So, what are some of the ways that your church is celebrating Black History Month?
Yeah, we look forward to having Black History Month every year. It's one of the things that we've just enjoyed in the 3 years that I've been able to serve as pastor at Mount Sinai. And we bring in some different speakers. This year we have one of our own pastors, Dr. Pillar, preach for us to kick us off. And then one of our another member of our conference, Sister Claudia Allen, is going to end us off this week as we celebrate our HBCUs and Black institutions. But every year, what we are most excited about is every year for Black History Month, the leaders of the church and myself, we look for people in the community, in the Trenton community, who we consider to be living Black history. Every year, we're always talking about those who have come before us, and that's important. The Dr. Kings, the Medgar Evers, Rosa Parks, and others, Garrett Augustus Morgan, and we recognize them, we remember them, but we believe that there are people right here in our backyard, in our community, who are living Black history, who are currently, making ways and blazing trails and serving the community. And so every year we honor them on the third week of Black History Month, and this year was really exciting and special.
Okay, so tell us about that process for your team. What do you look for specifically when you're looking for these living legends?
Yeah, so we basically look for people who are currently active and serving in Trenton or Mercer County where we exist. We look for people who are meeting a particular or very specific need in the community. So if you don't mind, I'll share with you kind of who we've honored in the past.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So the first year was 2020, and we looked for someone who was currently, doing a lot of work in the community, and we looked at our own Congresswoman, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman. She served in the state legislature as the president, I believe, of the state legislature for a long time. Here in New Jersey, here in Trenton, and she currently represents Trenton in the U.S. Congress. And she did a lot of work on young women. She worked on specific legislation related to young Black girls. She's just represented Trenton well, and so we thought that she'll be the ultimate inaugural honoree for Black History Month. In 2021, it was a little bit different. Of course, we were in the peak of the pandemic. COVID-19 was impacting a lot of us. And so we were thinking of what we could do to be creative in our honoree. And so in 2021, we didn't honor one person, we honored multiple people. What we did was we honored anyone in our church or related to someone in our church or in our church community, our church ecosystem, who was a healthcare worker or essential worker. So what we did was we honored and recognized in our virtual service every hospital worker, nurse, doctor, public health official, post office, postal worker, anyone who was a frontline worker in the pandemic. We honored them. And what we did for them was we just sent them all I think it was like a $35 gift card for DoorDash. So they
Hey,
get
that's
lunch
a good one.
on
Yeah,
the church, right? Because they're
that's
working.
perfect.
So
Yeah,
2021 was exciting, just to be able to do that. And the people in the church, we considered them local heroes,
right.
for what they were doing. And then 2022 was a little bit different. And that this was it was about a week ago, and it was really
Right.
exciting.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. I like that. And I think for them, they probably are not used to being recognized by
Yeah.
church congregations. And so, everyone, no matter how humble we are, everyone appreciates being appreciated. And
Yeah.
so that's great that the church could lead out in doing that for some of our. So why is that so important to the Mount or to you specifically? Why is making Black History Month and honoring people something that your church and you value?
Well, I think what Black History Month demonstrates is God's ability to give people the strength to endure through the worst of hardships, right? Like I
Mm,
always say, Black History Month is not celebrating people, it's celebrating what God can do through and for people.
I like
It is recognizing that in the face of slavery, segregation, injustice, economic exploitation, all of these things, we're still here, right? And we're not
Mhm.
just here, but for many of us, we're thriving and we're making a difference in spite of all that has happened. And I think that's just a testimony to the goodness of God. I
Mm,
think it also allows us to preach this point that there's something particularly special and important about serving the community,
mm,
right? Like
yeah.
oftentimes we find some success, or we find some elevation or promotion, and
Mhm.
there's a temptation to kind of forget our community.
Oh, yeah.
And so this allows us to kind of focus in on, hey guys, when to our college students, hey, when you make it, when you're successful, when God blesses you, bless your community.
Mm.
And that's why this year's honoree was just we were so excited for this year's honoree. Can I talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I was gonna say, tell us, tell us.
For sure. So in 2021, there was the vaccine had come out. We were still trying to get testing for
Mhm.
people, and we discovered our health and wellness director, Ife Azanue. She's awesome. She discovered a doctor in the area who does work in teaching communities about vaccines in general.
Mm.
And her name is Dr. Kimmy Ali. Dr. Kimmy Ali was our 2022 honoree. Dr. Kimmy Ali serves currently as the CEO of the Henry J. Austin Medical Center here in Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh,
Her
nice.
story is phenomenal. She grew up in Somerset, New Jersey. She saw health disparities. She talked about all around her in her neighborhood and as it impacted her community. She saw diseases and sicknesses that were really impacting our people. And she went on to college, went on to medical school. And what she said was, she said, often when people go to college and go to medical school, they leave and they go somewhere else. They go
Mm.
to,
Yeah.
the biggest hospital. She said, no, she wanted to come back and work in Trenton.
Mm.
Trenton, a pretty working class community, a community that has all of the same struggles of any large, predominantly African American city. And she's been working at Henry J. Austin for 20 years.
Wow.
They have started, they partner with many community organizations to provide health access, health training. And she has been afforded the opportunity as a Black woman to be the CEO of this medical center.
Wow.
And so we were just so excited to have her come to the church and to just receive this award. She was greatly humbled by it. And her story was so inspiring because she said, I was excited to be able to come back to our community and serve it.
Mm.
And so we honored her. And so I just hope that for our young people, for our teenagers to see, like, hey, when God gives you great promotions, when you get your education, remember that there is a blessing, in serving your community.
Yes, and giving back to where, you don't always have to leave to do great things. You can do great things right where you
Right
are.
where you are.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So this was in the services past Sabbath. So if people wanted to go back and watch that, they can do that on your Facebook, your church's Facebook
Absolutely.
page. Okay.
Absolutely. You can search for us on YouTube at Mount Sinai Trenton. If you do, subscribe, amen, to our YouTube page,
Go there.
or you can go to our Facebook page, Mount Sinai SDA Church. You'll see our logo. It's a cool bridge, and you'll be able to watch the service. It was really inspiring.
Yes, I think that's where I kind of feel like I want to hear her story from her mouth now.
Yeah, she told a little bit of her story. It was a really inspiring speech that she gave.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, this is great. I really appreciate you all taking the time to make Black History Month specials, not just a little blip in the service, but you're very intentional about celebrating our history. That's so important, and also
Absolutely.
honoring those in the community. So thank you for sharing that, and we hope that others out there, you're listening. You know, we're at the end of it at this point, but think about ways that you can make Black History Month special in your church or your community.
And if you didn't do anything for Black History Month, hey, March is Women's History Month.
That's
Honor
right.
Black women in the month of March. That's what
There
you
you go.
can.
There you go. You can combine the two. Yes, that's right. And you know, we keep saying it over and over, but you know, Black history is 365 days. So, you know, we can find still a way to celebrate that history. But anyway, it's been great catching up with you and hearing about more exciting things at the Mount. And like you said, go subscribe to their YouTube channel, Mount Sinai Church Trenton, right? So you want to
Mount Sinai Trenton or the Mount Sinai Church. Yeah.
Church. Okay. All right. Great. Well, God continue to bless you all. Tell everyone we said hello at the Mount.
Sure, will do.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
All right, everyone. We will be right back after this short break. Hello, everyone. I'm Latasha Hewitt, Communication Director for Allegheny East Conference, and I'm so excited to share with you about our upcoming Connection and Ministry Communication Conference, which we call CamCon for short. This year, we're focusing on maximizing your hybrid ministry. It's rethink, revise, reset. We have so many great presenters coming up, and we'll be sharing more about that in the coming weeks. But right now, I want to talk to you about our CamCon Awards. This is our opportunity to celebrate communication excellence that's happening in our local churches, and we want you to be a part of that. We have some of the best prizes. The dollar amount has gone up a little bit. We want that money to go back to our churches so that you can continue to do the ministry that you love. Are you ready to hear the categories? All right. Number 1, Best Church Stream. Your church has a stream that you are proud of, a nice flow, nice and smooth. The audience is engaged throughout start to finish. We want you to submit your entry for the Best Church Stream. Number 2, Best Hybrid Ministry. We all know the world in which we're living in right now. We have a virtual audience and we have an in-person audience. We want to award the church who is finding the best ways to make sure both audiences are engaged and getting the ministry that your church is putting out. If you think your church is doing an excellent job at that, please submit an entry for that award. All right, number 3, Best Church Video Production. If your church is producing some awesome, crisp, clean videos that help get messaging out about what your church is doing or highlighting some of the things that has gone on in your church, we want you to submit your entry for the Best Church Video Production. Number 4, Best Church Promotional Campaign. If your church has had an event where you've maximized out social media, your website, videos, getting the word out, and you put that all together to put a nice campaign package, we want you to submit for number 4 category, Best Church Promotional Campaign. All right? And last but not least, number 5 is our version of Shark Tank, CamCon Shark Tank. This is an opportunity, particularly for our small churches, to share with us what you would do if you were given a cash prize. How would you invest that into your media ministry? You have a 30-second video that you need to upload explaining exactly what your church would do with the money. And then we will judge and you will find out who the winner is at the end of our CamCon conference, which again happens April the 26th through the 28th. While you're on visitaec.org, go to visitaec.org/CamCon Awards and submit your entries, and then go to visitaec.org/CamCon to register for the conference. We're ready to rethink, revise, and reset for CamCon 2022. We'll see you there. And we are back with AEC Today Reports and our special Black History Month episode. So we're moving on to another segment that we always look forward to on this program, at least I do. And that's our Ask the Pastor segment. And today we are asking Pastor Dr. Ron Williams. So we're going to invite him on at this time. How are you, Pastor Williams?
Hey, Latasha, I am doing wonderful today. Thank you for asking.
Great.
Yeah, I am blessed of the Lord and favored.
We love it. We love it. And for those who don't know where you pastor in AEC, please shout out your church for them right now.
Well, listen, I am the wonderful pastor of the magnanimous, awesome Macedonia Seventh-day Adventist Church in Chester, Pennsylvania, in the Delaware Valley.
Don't forget that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you said Delaware Valley. I thought you were going to carry it on so that those who may not know that you are also the Delaware Valley area leader.
Yes,
So,
I am. Yes, I am. Humbly so. Just
So,
another job that has more work to it. That's all. But I have fun. We got great pastors, great churches. It's a privilege, honestly, to be able to serve the pastors and the churches in Delaware Valley. Really, it's an honor.
Great. And they didn't pay you to say that. You really believe it. So
No, I do.
That's a good thing. So how are things with you and your church during this pandemic? We like to check in with our guests in that regard.
You know, we are adjusting quite well to this pandemic era of ministry. Of course, like many of our churches, we've had our challenges where, we've lost quite a few members in terms of just the dynamics of trying to adapt from a, in-person way of life to this virtual thing and then shifting back and forth. But I have to admit, my church has been they've been really upstanding members in that they've been able to weather the storm for the most part. And we praise God. We only lost literally to pandemic. We only lost 2 members to the pandemic virus over 2 years. We've had some other deaths, but they were not related to COVID-19. And so we're really thankful for God and his mercies over our church. And we're making it through by his grace. And we're looking forward to this corner and really this new normal, whatever it's going to be. We're excited about it.
Good. Awesome. Glad to hear that. So you understood the task that was given to you. You know that there will be a question that I'm going to present.
Yes.
Sometimes these questions are easy. Sometimes they're challenging.
Yeah.
We'll see how you feel about this question.
Okay. All right.
Which I'm going to put there. How can our church properly celebrate Black History Month without making people of other ethnicities feel awkward or uncomfortable? This is a question coming from our audience. And, we're celebrating Black History Month and some people want to do it and do it right, but they feeling a little like, if I say this, maybe so-and-so might feel a little way.
Yeah.
How do you recommend they navigate that?
Well, first of all, I think that is an outstanding question. And I'm glad that the question is, how do we celebrate versus I'm glad the question isn't, do we celebrate?
Right.
It's how can our church properly celebrate, which is a plus. I really like that idea. There's an African proverb, Latasha, that says, until lions have their own historian, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Black History Month began in 1915, a half century after the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution was put in place, which the 13th Amendment was the abolishment of slavery in the United States of America. That September of 1915, Harvard-trained Professor Carter G. Woodson and a pastor by the name of Jesse Moreland, they founded the Association of Study of Negro Life and History. And it was an organization that was dedicated to researching and promoting the achievements of Black Americans and other people of African descent. Okay. Now, today, this organization is known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And the group back then sponsored a Negro History Week in the year 1926. And they chose the second week of February in 1926 because in that week was a celebration of the birthdays of President Abraham Lincoln, who was a freedom fighter, and Frederick Douglass. Now, interestingly enough, by the time you get to 1976, 200 years, Latasha, after 1776. Interesting. 200 years after 1776, 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month, calling upon the public citizens of the United States. Quote, he's quoted as saying this to us: seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. He said we should seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments, the accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. That was set up by our country and the government. So in short, there are two things to remember about Black History Month. And this is how I say it. Black History Month is born out of the necessity to demonstrate collectively the contributions of Africans in the advancement of American democracy.
Okay.
First of all. Secondly, it is a reminder of what God did in the liberation of Africans via the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Now, because this is a good question and it's asked by good old church folks, I love church folk questions. That's secular. Here's a biblical response to how I would answer the question biblically. When you think of the Old Testament narrative and the history of the main characters of the Old Testament, Israel, the Jews, we find God literally doing the same thing for the Jewish people. They are delivered from Egyptian captivity, Egyptian oppression. And one of the first things God tells them to do, he tells them, and we find this even as early as in the writing of the Ten Commandments, when the Ten Commandments are recited in Exodus 20, we find this preamble, if you will, in the introduction. God says to Israel, remember who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And then God gives them the first commandment: you should have no other gods before me. This becomes now part and parcel of their historical narrative as a people to be carried with them wherever they go. And so God celebrates deliverance and the accomplishment of them from oppression and makes it a part of their narrative, like we have been allowed the privilege to have the deliverance and from oppression and slavery attached to our narrative as Black Americans in this wonderful country we call the United States. And this is not isolated to African Americans. We're talking about Pan-Africanism. We're talking about our brothers and sisters from Trinidad and Tobago, Haitians, Jamaicans, those from Guyana, from Ghana, from Africa, Haiti. All of us have our roots collectively in the motherland.
That's right.
And so we celebrate Black history. We're celebrating the history of all the hues, the Pan-African hues that have contributed to the success and the wonderfulness of this world. And so that's how I would answer how we would celebrate Black History Month and not let others feel uncomfortable or awkward. And then I got one more, and I'll stop with this one.
Oh, go ahead.
Because here's the real gem. Because there are others that are in our churches and our pews that may not be of African descent, period. But we have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful message from God called the gospel of Jesus Christ. And what does the gospel do? It liberates the sinner from the slavery of sin.
Yes, it does.
And so again, we're called to remember what God did for the whole human race when it comes to deliverance or social justice or the coming out of bondage to something called slavery. And so we can celebrate regardless of ethnicity, regardless of culture. We can feel comfortable when we celebrate Black History Month, as because it is a celebration of deliverance and God's hand and liberating people from things that have oppressed them.
I love that. And to me, you just brought out something very important. Black History Month is not just for Black people.
Yes,
Sometimes people feel like, oh,
absolutely.
that's your thing. It's like,
Right.
this is for Black people. We just sit here and wait till you guys are done. But it's actually something that
Mercy.
all ethnicities can partake in because you're celebrating contributions, as you said, from people who are often neglected from
Absolutely, sir.
receiving recognition. So it's almost making up for some lost time that we know we've
Yes.
had with recognizing Black people in this. And so that's good to know, because I think sometimes, as part of our Black History Month programs, sometimes we like to revisit how we were treated, as you were saying,
Yes.
enslaved, and sometimes, the white man this and the white
Right.
man, and, there may be Caucasian or whites in the congregation who start to feel
Absolutely.
awkward because, they don't want anyone to turn to them and look at them as the oppressor.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know. I think that's probably somewhere some of the tension is too. Sometimes in
Mhm.
talking about our history, we have to refer to the fact that, there were white people who enslaved us.
Yes.
But
Yes.
at the same time, well, let me stop right there. What would you say to that? Like, addressing that part of our history without making maybe some of our white brothers and sisters feel uncomfortable about hearing that as part of our celebrations and our reflections.
Truth can be uncomfortable. It really can. But that's part of the necessity for us to remember from whence we have come
Yeah.
and to acknowledge what has happened. And because it has happened, we don't get stuck in the past. We
Okay.
learn from the past and we launch into a better future. But
That's right.
until we acknowledge what has happened, until we honestly take a forthright look and acknowledge and give the deliverance of reconciliation, healing can't happen.
Mm.
And we before Jesus comes, I think we're going to have to get this thing together, especially in this country. We're going
Yeah.
to have to get this thing together about racial reconciliation. It's got to happen before Jesus comes, or it's going to be a lot of folks left outside of that second coming of Christ who's going to wind
That's
up
right.
not getting into glory, but they're going to wind up going to the other place that's pretty hot.
That's right.
And I'd rather be in the place where it's going to be nice, cool, and everlasting.
That's right. That's right. Because I'm going to be there. If you don't want me
I know
there,
that's right.
sorry. That's I love that. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Great perspective. We have to accept the truth, but learn to do better and move past it. We can't act like it never
Absolutely.
happened and turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
So true. All right, awesome. Thank you. I feel like you helped us to be empowered to celebrate it
Yeah.
without feeling, tense about it, or overthinking it. We have a right to celebrate, and I love that analogy of the gospel is about freeing us from
Yeah.
sin, the slavery of sin, and we celebrate
Yes.
when we get the victory. So
That's
why
right.
can't we celebrate our history? Love that. Love that. Thank you, Dr. Williams. See, that wasn't so bad, right?
Hey, listen, it was my pleasure. One more thought.
Okay.
Dr. Sednak Yankson, and I want to end with this last quip. Dr. Sednak Yankson, in his book, Africa's Roots in God, he says this: all those who forget their history are doomed to repeat its mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Lose your history, lose yourself. For where there are no roots, the trees will perish.
That's deep. I've heard the first part of that, but I don't think I'll always get that last part of that quote. I love that.
For
And
where there are no roots, the
Yes.
trees will perish. Dr.
Yeah.
Sednak Yankson, in his book, Africa's Roots in God.
Africa's Roots in God. Check that out, everyone, if you're listening. Sounds like that's a good book. Definitely a powerful quote. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Very powerful. Very
pleasure.
powerful.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
No problem. And we'll invite you back for another question at another time.
All right. My pleasure.
All right, everyone. And we'll be right back after this short break with Fitness with Faye. So stay tuned for that. All right, everyone, welcome back to Fitness with Faye. We're here in the month of February, and I actually have Faye right here with me. How's it going, Faye?
Wonderful, Latasha. Hello, viewers. It's great to be here.
Yes,
Can you
okay.
believe
Of course,
it's
now that you're moving,
February?
I know. I can't believe it's February with the sun, and we
Short
have short
sleeves.
sleeves. This is crazy,
It's
especially
so beautiful out.
when it was snowing just a few days ago. But this is cool. It's great to be outside, get the fresh air.
Vitamin D.
Yes. I'm
Yes.
taking it all in. So, Faye, we know that this is February. We're celebrating Black History Month. There are some health issues that people in our community tend to suffer with. Just for our viewers, share some of those things that tend to plague our community in particular.
In particular, Latasha, diseases and conditions that tend to plague our community. African American people, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, being overweight, depression, as well as alcohol abuse, smoking, and so on and so forth.
All right.
Those are things. And, unhealthy diet.
Yes, we all have been guilty of that, our beloved soul food. But
Yes.
So being aware of all these things, Faye, please give us some things that we can do to combat this so that we can hopefully no longer make this a characteristic of our community. What can we do as a Black community to take our health a little bit more seriously?
Well, we can do better. As a community, we can definitely do better.
Yes.
We can change those former systemic numbers and so on and so forth by exercising. You can do something for yourself every day to make your bodies healthier, to take better care of yourselves. You can change your diet. You can stop using the salt and the sugar. Limit it, moderate, be more moderate and careful with your intake. A little known Black history fact.
What's that?
What do you think is the #1 killer of African American people?
I want to say like heart disease,
Okay.
like, suffering from heart attacks and things like that. Am I right?
You're almost right there. That's one of the things. It's definitely not race. Some people might think racism with the cops killing,
okay, I
as
see
well
what
as
you're
us
saying.
killing ourselves. There's lots of violence in the Black community. But it's actually diet and exercise. A lack of diet and exercise are killing the people in the African American community.
Wow. So
Yes.
we literally have our lives in our own hands.
Absolutely.
We make
And it's
better
so
choices.
important to make better choices, to get up and move your bodies. God designed our bodies to move. Our bodies are magnificently made. And we just don't want to be about it. We want to put our words into action and move. We don't want to just talk about it, but we want to actually do something about it.
That's right.
Be proactive.
All right, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And we like to move as a people. We like to move. We
Yeah.
tend to like to dance a little bit and be active. So we need to make that a normal part of our lifestyle, part of
Absolutely.
our fitness, so that we continue to combat these diseases. Well, thank you, Faye, for
Yes.
sharing. We always want to make sure we're educating the people on what they need to do to lead healthier lives. And of course, if we're out here together, that means we're going to be doing a workout later that you'll be able to check out on our Fitness with Faye playlist that we have right on our website, visit AEC.org. So can you share with them what they can find, what we're going to be doing that they can look forward to and check out later?
Well, we're going to be doing some wonderful outdoor activities, walking, exercising, a little interval training, and then I'm going to give you some flexibility and mobility exercises to do.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Part of
Yeah.
that keeping us moving.
Absolutely.
So this is a way you can do it. Check out the Fitness with Faye playlist on our website, visit AEC.org. All right, Faye, I'm ready. I'm pumped up.
All right,
You ready?
Latasha, let's go. Come on, viewers, put those sneakers on and let's move it.
All right, and we'll see you next month. All right, everyone, that wraps up our AEC Today reports, our special emphasis on Black History Month. We want to give a special thank you to all of our guests. We hope you enjoyed the dialogue as much as I did. Please make sure that you continue to check out our website, visit AEC.org, for other things going on in our conference. Don't forget to tune into the Upset podcast this Sunday at 6 p.m. on our YouTube and Facebook channel and on our podcast platforms. We enjoy interacting with you as our audience. Don't forget to share this episode with someone else for them to watch later. But we'll see you back here next month, the last Thursday in March, for another episode of AEC Today Reports. And before we go, I want to share this important quote as we wind down Black History Month, even though we celebrate 365. This is from Nelson Mandela. It says, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." Let us remember that as we close this program. Don't forget to check out Fitness with Faye and do those videos from our website. Visit ac.org, check out that playlist, and continue to stay active. Everyone, have a blessed day. Continue to enjoy the rest of your Black History Month, and we'll see you next month. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.